Okay. Let's see what you we're ready to, as soon as. Good evening. I'm Andrew. This is my son, Liam. Liam's 14 years old. He's been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. Doctors have diagnosed him at psychologically half of his physical age. PDD-NOS, pervasive development disorder, not otherwise specified. He can learn. Can he retain it? Not so well. Go ahead and see. Thank you. Autism. In 2003, when autism was diagnosed to my son, was 1 in 155 children. According to autismspeaks.org, one of the leading funding groups for autism research. That number's been revised a little bit to 1 in 68. 1 out of every 68 children you meet has some form of autism, from mild, barely noticeable like in Albert Einstein, which was called Asperger's syndrome, all the way up to nonverbal, can't talk, they're a prisoner in their body. Their mind works, but it doesn't make it here. Researchers, this study I'm quoting now came out in April 15th of this year. Researchers have found telltale epigenetic, which means beginning at the genetic level. Epigenetic changes in the DNA from the sperm of men whose children have early signs of autism. These changes, which are likely passed on to the offspring, may reflect in part the men's exposure to environmental hazards. In 1994, I have 2 children. In 1994, I was an armed security officer exposed to regular Houston air. My oldest son is 20 years old. He's as normal as every other 20-year-old. In 2000, late 1999, early 2000, when Liam was conceived, I was a cannon crew member. Every month, we were out in the field. I was exposed to gunpowder and high explosives. That stuff is nasty smelling. God only knows what it does to you on the molecular level. There's also early evidence that links it to diabetes in females. Remember, Mia had prenatal diabetes. Her son is autistic. I'm not saying these studies are conclusive, but they're certainly pointing in the right direction. There are needs. There are needs that need to be attended to. Autistic children of Liam and John's nature can be subject to sudden and violent outbursts, to the point where I've come into a few points and my son is spread eagle, held down on the floor. Only force of will keeps him on line with me. Therapeutic devices are expensive. Weighted vests, for some reason, weight and pressure help with autism. They reassure them. Eye-to-eye contact, like I'm making with you now, is amplified 100 to 1,000 times the information that's coming in here. You'll notice if you paid any attention to him today, he hasn't made much eye contact. These devices are ridiculously expensive. My goal today is to get you to go and sign my petition on change.org. Search Dennis Lofft. You'll come up with a petition to Ted Cruz and the Texas congressmen and women. I've even included Sheila Jackson Lee's name in that petition. Sign that petition. More federal funding, more state funding is necessary. AutismSpeaks.org can't do it by themselves. Cy-Fair District was good. They had him on occupational and music therapy. Due to funding, they've cut those. I've already, since February, noticed a regression in his speech. I ask you again, and I thank you for your time today, to go to www.change.org, search for my name, which is on the flyer, Dennis Lofft, and sign my petition. Speak up for those who can't speak for themselves. Autism Awareness Month is April. Light it up blue. Thank you for your time. Are there any questions from anyone?
Is this your personal website? Or
Change.org is, you'll find all sorts of petitions on there. But that's a good starter place. If you've got something you want to address to Congress, go to change.org and it'll be there.
What programs are there for him at school?
Not that many anymore. They're still offering occupational and behavioral therapies and music therapies, but he's in 8th grade. He's about to go off to high school. I'm going to have to fight like heck to get him back in there. Frankly, I'm a single father, full-time student, full-time father, by myself. It's going to be a real interesting battle. Dr. K?
How long is there a cure for this? With all of the therapies and all of the money that is going into the program, huh?
There is no cure yet. But the genetic research that's coming out is very promising.
So how do you, on a daily basis, with his case, how do you keep him on track?
Being former military, it comes naturally. I run the house with a steel fist, pretty much. Early on, I established myself as the dominant, and I don't let up. Ms. Johnson, you had a question.
Yes, pretty much what are the symptoms and what is the earliest age to start detecting, just like children, sometimes parents are in denial of certain reactions from babies. Say, for instance, if a child had a hearing disorder like deaf or speech, like one of my girlfriends, her son really didn't speak a word till he was 5 years old, and the parents really just kind of played it off, wrote it off, like, he's gonna talk one day, and they wouldn't, investigate or nothing. He would say different words, but not normal speaking. So what are the
signs of symptoms
to look for?
In the earliest point? A child starts babbling at a year, forming words at 18 months, somewhat recognizable speech pattern by 30 months. In addition to the speech pattern issue that I'll get to in a second, there's a pain factor. To this day, we don't know how it happened, but Liam managed to break his leg at about 18 months. And a baby, that's kind of difficult. He didn't show any sign of pain.
Wow.
Until I touched it. and then he jumped out of his skin. They feel things differently. It's a neurological disorder. In a good portion of the cases, the heads are noticeably larger. Going back to the speech pattern, if they get up to about 18 to 24 months, and then they start regressing, start losing their speech, is a sign. Doctors are still in denial. We didn't find out until he was 3.5, 4 years old. And you go through all the typical, oh, it's my fault, what could I have done differently? It's pointing, research in 2015 is pointing towards genetics, towards environmental factors. In my case, the gunpowder. In Mia Ekholm's case, the diabetes during gestation. But nothing is conclusive yet. It's why we need more federal funding. I appreciate y'all's time. Thank you.